Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Open Series in Houston. I'm Nick Miller alongside Tannon Grace. How you doing, sir?
Nick? Nice to see you today.
Good to see you as always. You're here rocking a sweet deck that you've racked up a couple wins with. PPTQ/IQ.
Right.
Took it down with a green-red devotion deck that you have tuned with some Florida players, some other notable players. Who all have you been working with this deck, and why would you play a deck like this?
All right, so in this format, you just want to go bigger and better than everybody else, and this deck does that very, very well. The original version I played was from John Couvier, it's a notable Florida Magic player who sent me the list. I ended up playing it at a PPTQ/IQ. I went undefeated, so obviously the deck was great.
Yeah, no questions.
It overcame my play mistakes, obviously. The original version was a little different. We were ramping into like Ugin and things like that. I kind of went away from it because, believe it or not, Ugin wasn't really that great. He was good in the matchups that were already good for us and bad in the matchups that were bad. So we kind of went to this list. This one was made more by Brendan Michael DeCandio, and he just assured me that it was great and that I should be on this instead, and the results are showing up.
Right, we've seen Mark Nestico, SCG Select Side writer, write about this deck, talk about it with the Florida people. You have taken a hold of it. And it's interesting you say the Ugin is not that great. I've seen a lot of people, after a couple of weeks of the formats, like, Ugin's great, but I've lost a lot of games where I've resolved Ugin.
Right.
So I see a lot of people moving away from it. You're moving to more towards Whisperwood Elemental, Arbor Colossus, Genesis Hydra.
Right. We originally had 3 Whisperwood Elementals and just immediately wanted 4 after playing the events. The card is good in every matchup. It gums up the board versus other like mid-range and aggressive decks. Against control decks, it's Wrath Insurance plus a huge threat. They never know what you're manifesting, and if I ever get to turn over a card that's been manifest, it's usually going to kill you.
Right.
So,
a lot of people have mentioned, even in like limited, especially in constructed, when you actually hit a creature with the manifest, it's just so much better than just, a worst case scenario you're attacking with a land or whatever. Right. But when you get to flip a Shaman of the Great Hunt, anything, so much extra value.
I got to unmorph an Arbor Colossus on camera today.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
All right, so the decks, you got your 11 mana dudes. You said originally had 12, but you've cut down to 1. You've got your Radiclaw Mystics, your Elvish Mystics, Voyaging Satyr, the one that you can untap Nykthos with, and of course Courser. So you've got the big mana shell.
Right.
What's the best thing this deck can do?
Genesis Hydra for just as much as you possibly can. Knowing what you're trying to hit with Genesis Hydra is very, very important. So you want to generally do it for 4 or 5. That's where your big payoffs are. If you can go for more, then that's obviously great. Also, you just want to Whisperwood as soon as possible. If you can turn through your Whisperwood against most decks, they can't handle it.
Right. So of course you get the in-step manifest creature. You get the Wrath Insurance. You get to save all your, you turn your face-up dudes into face-down dudes.
Right. Also, like, Polukranos has just been great in every matchup. I mean, the format's so much more playing to the board than it was last season with, like, a lot of blue-white control. And there's only a little blue-black control. And we actually have a great matchup against blue-white control. All of our threats are extremely good against them. Plus, we have a lot of, like, haste threats and Xenagos and Shaman of the Great Hunt. So.
One thing to bring up, you don't have Goblin Rabblemaster in your deck that a lot of the green-red type decks are doing. You're saying we don't really want that much red?
Well, yeah, the thing is, you don't always have red on turns 2 or 3 when you need it. This deck is essentially mono green, splashing red. Plus, I had it in the sideboard for a little while. It's just, we deemed it unnecessary.
All right. You've got the Shaman as your red splash along with Crater's Claw. Hasty threats / just kill you threats off the top in terms of Crater's Claw. You're basically a devotion deck.
Right.
So you've got 3 Nykthos. We've seen a lot of people splash 2. Some people go up to 4. You've got the 3.
Right. I think 3 is the correct number. I don't like 4. Sometimes you draw multiple. You can win a lot of games without drawing Nykthos. You can just play a fair game of, turn 3 and turn 4 and your 4 and 5 drops and stuff like that. And I have Crater's Claw someone for 14 today.
That's a lot of damage. I think that enables Ferocious.
Yeah.
I don't know. You've got a Planeswalker suite here, 2 Nissa, 3 Xenagos. How's that working out?
Xenagos is the best Planeswalker for the deck. I've never had a deck where I've +1 Xenagos so many times in my life. You go like mana guy, like plus Xenagos, play something else, things like that. I've actually ultimated Xenagos in this deck, never done that before.
Wow.
And then it's just, the 0 ability is great against, decks where you need to block or attack against like blue-black control and stuff. Nissa, I actually haven't cast the card yet today, but it's just great. I mean, like, I had it in my hand versus blue-black last round and won anyway, but that's where it really shines is like the more mid-rangey, like bigger matchups.
Right. You get to make the colorless land tokens or creatures out of your lands that survive Ugin, things like that.
Yeah, surviving Ugin and their sweepers is like a pretty big deal. Yeah.
So you've basically checked off all the boxes if Wizards made one of those pre-release cards for this deck. You've done all the crazy stuff with 14 damage from Crater's Claw, ultimating Xenagos, flipping Arbor Colossus.
Yeah, drawing 6 cards in a turn of a Shaman of the Great Hunt. Yeah.
Seems very powerful. All right, let's look at the sideboard here. The first card that stands out, Triple Briber's Purse.
Yeah, this is a sweet one. So it's pretty narrow. It's not for a whole lot of matchups, but we just can't beat Blue-White Heroic.
All right.
You don't interact with them well at all. I mean, you have like Crater's Claws and a couple other cards that we'll talk about in a moment. But if you Briber's Purse for like 3 or 4, and you get to actually just stimmy their attack for like 3 turns, they probably can't win anymore.
Right. You get to make it not attack or block.
Right.
You know, their protection spells don't really get to prevent that type of effect. So you just get to say, nice creature, we're going to continue doing our thing.
You can't God's Willing a Briber's Purse, so it's pretty good.
That's the tech, ladies and gentlemen. All right, you got a Setessan Tactics here, just a great card in the green Devotion shelves.
It's for creature matchups, yeah. I mean, just any matchup where, you know, the works get kind of gummed up, you know, you have a bunch of creatures in play, you get to end a turn, kill 3 of their guys, they can't win anymore. It's usually a one-sided wrath.
It's definitely a card that's been a sleeper in this standard format. It had some play last standard against the mono blue decks, the green-red monsters.
I've never lost a game where I've cast it. So.
You got 2 Nylea's Disciple help you against the aggressive decks. Now you've got a bunch of removal here. You mentioned more help for the heroic matchup. You got Wild Slash and Arc Lightning.
Yeah, Wild Slash is actually kind of cool. For people who haven't played with it yet, it has a lot of implications in the blue-white heroic matchup. It actually prevents them from preventing damage. So you can stop things like God's Willing. You know, if you block and they God's Willing their guy, you can like Wild Slash something else in response. If that resolves while you're ferocious, their guy actually dies. They can't prevent the damage. It stops, I think it's the 1-drop, the Hoplite.
Right.
It can't be, you know, that damage can't be prevented either, and they always think that card is safe. So.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of instances where that ferocious ability actually is coming up. People are finding more, you know, scenarios and things like that.
It's a great design card.
You know, even as back as far as Legacy, where we figured out ways to kill True Name Nemesis with it.
Yeah, the block of Batterskull, Wild Slash them.
That very realistic possibility. 2 Outpost Siege. More control hate, or
it's just a little more stuff for just to push the control matchup. I mean, you only board in 3 cards in the control matchup because, as I said, it's pretty good. But it's just a great thing. I've named both Khans and Dragons with it. But just getting to draw the extra card every turn, like a la Chandra, but they can't Hero's Downfall this card. So it's really, really good in that matchup if you resolve it. It's one of the ones you want to force through.
Okay. Yeah. Then some Reclamation Sages, enchantments everywhere in this format. It's always going to be a good card. And an extra Arbor Colossus, and I hear you want a 3rd copy somewhere. Yeah,
so I wanted a 3rd copy in the deck because the deck is actually a little weak to Blue-White Heroic and then flying strategies, and I have played against Stormbreath Dragon a lot today. And the Red-White aggressive deck that Mark Nestico won the PTQ with and wrote a lot about is very, very popular
today. The
today.
deck has just taken over like the regionals results. You see that deck everywhere.
It was like half of the top 8s, but Arbor Colossus is pretty good against them. They only have like 1 main deck answer to actually kill it. You know, they have maybe a Valor Stance too, but they have Chain to the Rocks, but you're overworking all those cards. I would try to find a place to put the second one on the board if that's like a big thing in your metagame. But or a second one main, but I'm not sure what I would cut. Maybe the 4th Whisperwood Elemental.
All right, well, the deck is looking very good. You're 4-1 with it after fine rounds, so not a bad start. Tannon, thanks for sitting down with me here on the sideboard. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Houston.